Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So today we're back working on the pole barn addition project, and my focus today is going to be drilling post holes and pouring concrete footings in each of those post holes. And I think today's going to be a little bit of a weird day. We've got a chance of rain all day. That can be bad for this kind of project because with our clay soil and groundwater, normally as soon as I drill a post hole, it's going to start to get wet. When it rains, that accelerates, and so I'm probably going to be trying to get the drilling done quickly so I can move on to get the concrete down in there for the footings before we have any issues with water filling the holes. It's not an issue if the water gets in the hole after the concrete has been poured and sets for a bit, but if the hole's already got water in it, that's a real hassle for concrete. So I'm hoping I can get all this done before we have any issues with water in the holes. We'll see how that goes. And then the other problem is we've got high temperature, high humidity today, heat index like 110, I think. So I don't even know how long my body's going to hold out. So this will be an interesting day. But I've got my post holes marked out 1, 2, 3, 4 along the eave wall that are going to support the roof loads. And then I've got a 5th post hole marked out back there, which will just be a post in the middle of a gable wall, really just to provide any resistance needed against wind loads. It's not going to support any vertical roof loads. It's really just there for horizontal reinforcement against wind loads. So I marked these out yesterday using just a tape measure. I know a lot of people get fancy with strings and cross measurements and diagonals when they're marking out where their holes go, but you got to remember a couple things when you're doing a pole barn. First of all, when you come in here with an auger, you know, you can try and be as accurate as possible, but that auger is going to go move around and do some weird things, and so you're never going to be perfect with that auger. The other issues as you drill down with an auger on a tractor 3-point hitch, as the 3-point hitch linkage moves down, the angle of that auger changes, and so you have to stay on top of that to keep that drilling vertical. So when you're drilling these holes with an auger, they're not going to be perfectly accurate, so you don't want to go crazy marking out your holes only to mess that up with drilling anyways. And then the second thing is the method I use for putting posts in for a pole barn. I'm going to drill a 12-inch diameter hole, pour a concrete footing at the bottom of that hole, and then my 4x6 wall posts are going to sit down on that footing before the hole gets backfilled. There's actually a lot of room inside of that hole on that footing to move those posts around as we square up the structure, so you don't really have to be perfect from that regard either. There's really built-in margin of error and accommodation just because we have a small post relative to a large hole, and that'll soak up any errors in the measurement and the drilling process, as I found over the years. So everything's laid out. What I'm going to do now is get the tractor in here, start drilling the holes. Depending on how quickly that goes, I might just drill a couple and then put the concrete in those holes again because we have a threat of rain. If the drilling goes quick, then I'll just drill all the holes, get the tractor out of here, and then pour the concrete footings one after the other. One thing I want to point out, you're going to see in this video, is I will be removing the spoils or the tailings from drilling each hole. It's not going to be used to backfill the posts later. What we found through soil testing here is once you drill into this clay, it gets nice and light and fluffy. It's no longer suitable as a backfill. It's not going to provide any resistance to that post against wind loads or any sort of horizontal loads, and so we cannot use it for backfill here. I'll be using dry mixed concrete for backfill instead. The other problem with that clay, once you drill it and it's nice and aerated and fluffy, as soon as it rains, as soon as it gets wet for any reason, it gets really greasy and sticky and slippery, and it'll stick to the bottom of work boots, it'll stick to tractor tires. If you step in the clay, then step in pine needles, all of a sudden you got like a 20-pound brick on the bottom of your work boots. And so over the years I've found I need to get that drilled clay, the tailings or the spoils, just get that the heck out of here, get it off of the site, and that'll save a lot of hassle later on. So we'll get the tractor over here and get started. All right, so I got the holes all cleaned up and cleaned out, and what I normally do is, get as much loose soil out of there as I can, and then take a tamper or a big post and pound down whatever's left in there. I'll throw some rocks down in there if I need to level it out any. And so I've got all the holes prepped now, and from here we're just going to mix up some concrete, put some in each hole to act as a footing, and I'm typically going to do 4 to 5 inches of concrete in the bottom of each hole. So we'll get started with that now. All right, so that's 5 inches thick now. That was 160-pound bag, and that's my recollection is for a 12-inch hole and a 4 to 5 inch footing, you're going to use about a bag per hole. So that's all set now. I do like to mix this a little bit on the wet side, just because in this case the ground is actually really dry. There's no groundwater in the holes, and so I'm going to lose a lot of moisture into the ground initially, and so mixing it a little bit wetter will let it settle and not set up too quick. So this one's good, and we'll just move on to the next holes now. All right, y'all, I got all the footings poured. I've got all the holes covered up because the sun was getting in there, and I don't want the concrete to dry out too quickly. It's pretty much in the peak heat of the afternoon, so I'm about shot. And actually my GoPro, that gave up too, that overheated. So I think it's a good time to call it quits for today. So the next video we're going to do in the pole barn project is going to be me putting up the posts and wall girts and squaring up the structure. That's going to be one to watch. It's going to be a different type of pole barn construction technique than is normally used. Normally people set all their posts first with a zillion strings, but the way I'm going to do it on the smaller structure is to use the wall girts and the structure itself to square everything up. And it's really a quick, easy way to do things for buildings, roughly under 32-foot wall length. So until that next video, thanks for watching.